The number of accomplishments in my life, Doctor, is one. Deborah.
Quite an accomplishment.
If you don't mind, I'd rather not be discussed this intimately on the front porch.
On the front porch, you're in a test tube. It is obvious that you're going to be discussed. So why do you insist upon remaining where you're not wanted?
Well, why should you want to discuss me? There's nothing to discuss, is there?
Deborah, Dr. Pretorius has not driven this great distance to see Beelzebub, or to inquire whether you're being more careful with your curling iron. It's quite apparent that he's come to talk with me. Now go and tell Bella there will be 2 extra for dinner.
Somebody yelled for me?
Yes, Bella, these 2 gentlemen are staying for dinner.
Mr. John know about it?
There's plenty of food.
Mr. John better know about it.
I'll tell him.
He's doing his books now, and he don't like to be disturbed.
I'll tell him when he's finished, Bella.
Well, I'll put 2 plates on anyway. You left the peas half done.
I'll be right in.
I would like to help.
Oh, Mr.
Oh,
Saunders.
really, it isn't necessary.
Don't let him. It's a good idea. He'll be of great help.
May I ask, is Mr. Shunderson your servant?
He's my friend, but he likes to help.
I see. Dr. Pretorius, I referred a moment ago to Deborah as the only accomplishment of my life.
I'm sure you were being modest.
Oh, she's more than my only accomplishment. Quite simply, she's my only contact with and reason for what is sometimes described as life. If you'll permit a rather lurid analogy, Deborah is my heartbeat.
Mr. Higgins, please don't feel that you have to tell me anything.
No, I want to tell you about myself for just a moment. I can't say what makes me want to. Perhaps it was Bella's rudeness. Perhaps because I think of you already as a friend. Have you got a match?
No.
I smoke too much anyway. The Mr. John Bella seems so concerned about is my brother. He owns this farm. He owns the food I invited you to share, the beds we sleep in, clothes we wear, Deborah's tuition, and the tobacco in my pipe. The pipe is mine. I have other possessions, some scrapbooks, thin volume of poetry, mine too. It was published, but it didn't sell, of course. And Deborah, and the memory of my wife.
I wondered about her.
She died when Deborah was very little in London. That's where Deborah was born.
What were you doing in London?
I did the same thing, Dr. Pretorius, in most of the major cities of the world. I failed miserably at whatever it was I tried to do.
We hadn't any matches.
Why? Oh, it's become a nervous habit, I guess. My brother John never left this farm, physically, mentally, spiritually, or in any other fashion. I don't imagine John's been more than 100 miles from this porch in any given direction.
When you left the farm, what did you set out to be?
Nothing in particular, except to be as far from here as possible. I remained both throughout my life, far from here and nothing in particular. I was an indifferent journalist, a minor poet, an ineffective teacher, a wretched businessman, unable to provide properly for my wife and child, and then not even for just my child. When my heart gave way, it seemed to me that my functions had achieved a unanimous failure. And so I applied to my brother for permission to return here with Deborah as a complete dependent, which I am in every sense of the word, including being listed as such in his income tax report. And now, if you'll excuse me, I'll ask John about dinner.
Perhaps it would be better if you didn't.
Please, I'd consider it a favor. Would you like to come inside?
No, I'll stay out here for another minute. thought you were helping in the kitchen.
The woman didn't want me.
Can't say I approve of the company you keep.
The dog is frightened and unhappy.
He has that in common with most of humanity.
It's not going to be easy. What you came here for.
Let's go for a walk.
Sunday ain't Sunday without chicken. Two things I guess I did every Sunday of my life. Go to church and eat chicken.
Don't you ever eat chicken on a weekday?
Only on Sundays.
But if you like chicken so much, why don't you eat it more often?
Because I only eat it on Sundays.
Uncle John lives according to a very strict schedule.
Two things I live by. A good book and a calendar. I got a day's work to do every day in the year. I take care of my work, and the good book takes care of me.
Then you do the same thing every day of every year, is that it? Just like the cows and horses and vegetables.
That's right. That's what the good Lord and old Mother Nature put us here for. To do the job they set out for us.
But I can't speak for the good Lord, of course. But I know a little about old Mother Nature. If old Mother Nature had her way, there wouldn't be a human being alive.
How do you mean that?
I mean, among other things, that old Mother Nature tries to destroy us periodically by means of pestilence, disease, and disaster. That's why the human race has been at war with old Mother Nature ever since it became the human race.
What do you mean, became the human race? Is that what you teach?
No, and I'm not really a teacher. That merely happens to be my opinion.
You make a lot of money?
John, really, I don't think you... I don't mind telling him. Yes, Mr. Higgins, I make a lot of money as a doctor, but then I'm one of the few fortunate ones.
I'll see. We got one here in town works night and day. Hasn't got a red cent.
If you had a teacher here in town, you'd be a little worse off than even your doctor. But then the government doesn't pay them for the patients they don't treat or the children they don't teach.
Oh, you mean like I get paid for not growing some crops? I never could figure that one out. But then, never ask too many questions about it. Never look a gift horse in the mouth. You?
I never look any horse in the mouth.
Hmm. Well, I'm going back to working on my books. Then I'm going to sleep a while till it's time for my radio program. Off the schedule today, income tax. I ain't complaining, though. Got more deductions than I thought. Doc, do you mind if I put you and your friend down as a couple of pea salesmen?
Flattered. Just don't call me Doc.
That way I deduct the whole dinner. Every little bit helps. I write it all down in a book. Most of my equipment don't cost me a thing, writing it off year by year. What's it called, Arthur?
Depletion and depreciation.
Yeah, that's it. Means it's running down. Don't work so good as it did.
One thing about teachers and writers and such, they have less bother with their income tax than farmers and oil well owners.
That's so? Why?
Because their equipment is talent and a highly developed mind. And when they run down and don't work so good as they did, the depletion and depreciation can't be written off their income tax.
See what I mean? What's so smart about 'em? Don't play the radio loud while I'm sleeping, Arthur.
No, John. Deborah, why don't you show Dr. Pretorius the farm? I'm sure he'd be interested.
Just a lot of depletion and depreciation, that's all.
That's it, before it's all written off.
I'll get a sweater and meet you outside.
How old were you when you learned to walk?
I did pretty well by the time I was 4.
When did you leave the farm?
I was 16.
It couldn't have taken you 12 years to make up your mind.
You enjoy music, Mr. Shenderson?
More than anything.
Mr. Shenderson, Dr. Pretorius has come here to ask Deborah to marry him, hasn't he?
I wouldn't be surprised.
This, as you see, is the dairy. The cows are out in the pasture.
Doing the job the good Lord gave them.
Uncle has 8 cows. It's far more milk, butter, and cheese than what we need. He sells the rest in town. That makes it a commercial enterprise. And he can write off the dairy and the equipment and the cows. I think I like the dairy best of all. It's certainly spotless, isn't it? The Board of Health is very strict about that.
Where'd you hide Bella when they come around? Under the ice house?
Down here. This room is for the separator and things.
I'd stay out of there if I were you. You might get caught in a room with a dead end.
The milk gets certified, you know. According to the amount of butter fat in it.
Why did you run away from the clinic?
And this, of course, is the separator, where the cream gets separated from the milk.
Why did you run away?
It works by centrifugal action. It used to be done by just skimming it off. But the cream, being lighter than the milk, rises to the surface.
Deborah.
Because I had to.
Why?
I had to, that's all.
Why?
Because
Why?
I had reasons.
What?
They were private and personal. I don't have to tell you everything.
Why?
I'm in love with you.
What makes you think so?
I can't give you symptoms. It's love, not measles.
Am I being pompous again?
Well, there are some things you can't be scientific about.
Even so, why should that make you want to run away in the middle of the night in your bathrobe and slippers?
I didn't want to see you the next morning.
I wanted to see you.
Not if I knew about you. What you knew about me, you wouldn't want to.
Possibly, I don't know.
A person just doesn't fall in love that fast. Or that often. I just couldn't lie there anymore and think about it. I couldn't stand it. Don't you see? If I do love you, then how could I have been in love with him? And if I didn't love him, then why? And anyway, even if I did, why did I have to go and tell you about it?
You crying again?
No, but I want to run away again.
No, no more running away. Now, you were right about your father. I couldn't have told him. He'd have understood, but I couldn't have told him. Certainly you couldn't have.
Now you tell me something. Why did you come here?
What do you mean?
It couldn't have been to talk to my father.
Well, as a matter of fact,
Because if it was, what about it? There wasn't anything to tell him, really, was there?
no, not really. It
A
was just
superficial flesh wound like mine. You weren't worried about my condition, were you?
Of course not.
Going to all the trouble of finding me, searching the registrar's records and whatnot. Why did you come all the way out here?
I don't know, really.
I think you do know. What's your first name? I can't go on calling you Dr. Pretorius.
Noah.
Why did you come after me, Noah?
You know, what you said before about cream being lighter than milk, that wasn't quite accurate.
Noah's a cute name.
My real name is Ludwig. You see, cream is the oily part of the milk. It's not actually a separate product.
I prefer Noah.
In homogenizing milk, for instance, the particles of fat become emulsified.
I do not want to appear unladylike about this, but I'd feel silly acting coy.
So the cream becomes part of the general body of the milk.
With you of all men. You couldn't have come out here because you wanted to talk to my father. And you couldn't have come out because you were worried about my health. And there comes a time when a patient asks the doctor questions. Why did you come all this way just to see me, Noah?
I did have a reason, you know.
I know.
No, you don't. It doesn't seem to matter at the moment.
You're being pompous again at the moment.
You'd be surprised how unpompous.
Then what are you being? Well, things do have a way of happening, don't they?
Old Mother Nature. Old Mother Nature knows best.